Hey, it's me, Tech Sergeant Chance Johnson with 140th Wing Public Affairs, and today I'm sitting down with the new commander of the 140th, Colonel Jeremiah Tucker, call sign Weed. All right, sir, so I thought that we would just start with if you want to talk a little bit about your background in the military and where your career has taken you over the years.
Yeah, first of all, I appreciate you allowing me to be here for this one. And do you mind if I drink my tea while I have this chat?
Absolutely, I'm going to drink my coffee.
Fair enough, sounds good. So I always like to introduce myself, and it kind of sounds weird, I think, for most folks when they hear it. But my full name is Jeremiah Santiago Gonzalez y Tucker. I grew up in a bicultural home. On a day in and day out basis, you'll see Jeremiah Tucker on my name tag. But the culture I grew up in, I claim my mom's side of the family as well. And I grew up in two distinctly different families, which I think has served me well going forward in my career, just in life in general. So I'm very proud of both the Tucker and the Gonzalez side of the family. So I always like to introduce those sides before I introduce myself. But I grew up in Colorado, Parker, the Pinery, which is down on the south side of Parker, which is it was a 2-lane highway when I grew up out there. It's not the monstrosity that Parker is today. Went to Ponderosa High School, so I'm a local kid. My dad was in this unit. My brother was in this unit when I was growing up. So from the time I was about 6 or 7, I've been coming out to Buckley, even though we were just moving from New Mexico when I was 6 years old. I was out here a lot with my dad, just kind of trooping around. Much smaller base back then. Went to Ponderosa. After that, graduated, and I went to University of Colorado Boulder and started getting into the flying thing. To be perfectly honest, I was actually trending towards being an agent in the CIA. I interviewed there, did not get hired. And not that I wanted to be a no-kidding agent, but I was still, dabbling like most college students do of what they want to do when they grow up. So my dad was a fighter pilot. That was something I had always wanted to do, but I was always interested in that spy side of the house. So it was a good experience. Did not get hired, but fortunately I was lucky enough to get an interview here at Buckley in '98 and was hired to go to pilot training. So that's kind of how this all started. Much as how the Colorado Guard in general works is you get hired and then you go to pilot training and you have to finish strong in your class to be able to continue to fly fighters. So I was lucky enough and fortunate to do that. Came back here, and the interesting part of the story is when you're in F-16 school, the IPs, and this was pre 9/11, right? So the instructors, they always hit on, hey, we're training you to go to combat. And I know we're not in combat right now, and I know 9/11 now has kind of shaped the world of where we are. So everybody looks through a 9/11 prism, but think there was no real hostility in the world from the U.S. perspective militarily at the time when I was going through F-16 school. But the IPs, the instructors would constantly hit on, hey, you could be in combat as soon as you're out of here. Within, as soon as you're mission ready, you could be in combat. So we need you guys to have that mindset. I'm like, yeah, whatever. That's kind of the way I just want to get through F-16 school and not make an idiot of myself and graduate and do well and go back to Colorado and make my family proud. Well, September 11, I'm waking up at 4 a.m., turning on my TV before I go fly a sortie that day, one of my last ones before I graduate. And boom, I see the first tower on fire. And as I'm having my coffee, I'm drinking my coffee and I'm watching, and I see the second tower hit. And I thought it was, wow. I had no idea what was actually happening. Like most people, I'm guessing, no one had, was this, I had no clue what to think, right? Within about 20 minutes, I get a phone call and they say, hey, Lieutenant Tucker, at the time, we need you to stay home. We're going to 24/7 ops. We're in a combat footprint, combat posture now, and we are going to be flying caps, much like we were flying caps all around the country at the time, where all of the airliners started landing. There was no aircraft in the sky. Even Buckley here, we had turned jets and started launching to fly. So lo and behold, my instructors, were prophetic in the way they go, hey, you could be in combat. No kidding, almost just about a year later, we were spinning up to go to Iraq after I graduated F-16 school. Wow. Back here. So as a lieutenant, I was able to, and I consider myself fortunate, it's definitely shaped my career. I was flying in combat as a lieutenant, which is very, it doesn't happen a lot anymore in our modern Air Force. So I was very proud to be that the pilots here and the instructors here thought well enough of me to take me to combat and put me in that kind of a scenario, which was pretty harrowing at the time. So 2003, I got to fly in combat. It was very short. There was the shock and awe night. I was able to be up airborne at night under night vision goggles during shock and awe, so I could see Baghdad, which really was you can't create those kind of experiences in life again. Um, and yeah, pretty interesting time. But we can get into those things later on if you want. Subsequently, 4 or 5 combat tours, depending on how you want to discuss it, depending on where we were at the time. And then around 2010, because I had been on a combat rotation a lot and home for a while, out back overseas a lot, I was ready to do something different in my career. I was a senior captain at the time, about to be a major, and I just wanted to see other things out there. So I took a job in DC, went and worked on the staff for a little while in GBA 3, which is current ops. Got some experience there in the DC area, the Pentagon, and that sort of thing. Did 2 years out there and then came back. Sat alert here, was a line IP here in Colorado for a couple more years, and then I applied and was picked up to do a job down at NORAD Northcom in J33, which is the alert side of the house for the NORAD commander. Did that for 2 years. An outstanding job. It was really a great experience traveling to all the alert bases that we have, understanding what a 4-star level thought process to Homeland Defense looks like. Really interesting idea, but helped me better understand what we are doing when we talk about Homeland Defense of the United States, and what we're doing and how we posture ourselves for outside threats and internal threats for that matter as well. There, and I was lucky enough to be the 140th OSS commander here in the ops group. So I did that for about 18 months, just under 2 years. And because I am working for NGB now, I'm considered a Stat Tour member, career status Stat Tour member. I kind of am on both sides of the house in the Title 10 in DC, and I also work here now as a Title 32 Guardsman. So I kind of play both sides, if you will, working back and forth between statuses and job titles depending on where I am in the country. At the end of OSS Command, I was actually pulled back to DC. While I was here as OSS Commander, and just prior to that, I was going to DU, Corbell School of International Studies, and really got a good sense of international security and strategy, which really was something very interesting to me. So the job that I was taken or picked up to do in DC was NGB 8X, which is the strategy side of the house for NGB. So I was able to write strategy for NGB, work on long-term 30-year looks, 15 to 30-year looks of what we're going to look like as an Air National Guard in the future. But I was lucky enough also to sit on some strategy writing teams for the active duty Air Force. So I worked in the Pentagon and a lot of the things they're working on, and was one of the initial cadre of what's now Air Force Futures. It was called AFWERC at the time, but now if you hear Air Force Futures, that was the inception phase when I was there in DC in the 2016-2017 phase, or time frame, 2017-2018. From there, I was selected to go to Naval War College in residence in Newport, Rhode Island, which was, frankly, one of the greatest years of my life. Just a really great opportunity to sit with some of the smartest folks that have been, across an array of careers in the military, from all services, civilian. I even had a CIA agent in my class, which he became a really good friend, and just made really good long-term relationships and friendships there that I still keep in touch with. As a matter of fact, one of my buddies is taking command in Germany in July, and I'm going to fly out to see his change of command, and he came to my change of command for wing command. So that's the kind of relationships I was able to build in Newport, which was just a fantastic time. And Newport in the summer is really a great place to see. Interesting enough, after a year there, getting a second master's and more into the strategy realm, which was just something I just really enjoy, I was selected to become the commander of the test center, the Air National Guard Air Force Reserve Test Center down in Tucson, which is, when we talk innovation in the military writ large, or especially in the Air Force, I don't know if we collectively know what that really means, what innovation means. I really saw what that means at the test center, where we're taking some just really innovative solutions to problem sets that we have across the Air Force, and these are mission related problem sets, and really able to synthesize down from conceptual idea to delivery of some sort of a capability that makes our pilots, our operators, our whatever it is in that mission set, tanker pilots, makes them more capable against an adversary, and being able to shrink the timelines, working with very off the shelf kind of solutions. That was just an eye opener to me, and it was I would say it was daunting, but it was also a little bit intimidating, to be honest, to be working with some of the smartest folks that you will ever meet in the Air National Guard and the Air Force Reserve. These are names that are well known across the CAF, the Combat Air Force, and the Mobility Air Force, just because they speak in front of large events, they speak in front of GOs. They are the face of these capabilities. Yogi Brown, our squadron commander right now, is one of those. He was the F-16, the CTF, the Combined Task Force lead for F-16. They're one of those very innovative guys, but very much replicated across all the mission sets that we had there. That was I keep harping on this, but if I can relay anything, it's take the opportunity to find other experiences. I know there's risk in doing that, but each time that I've gone somewhere and saw something new, it was absolutely worth it. It becomes, I feel like I'm a broken record. I keep saying that was one of the greatest experiences of my life. It's one of the greatest experiences of my life, and they were. I've been absolutely fortunate. The military has offered me, and the Air National Guard has afforded me opportunities that I would have never have gotten had I not gone out there and tried to, taken a little bit of risk and tried something else. So even to this day, Tucson, my wife and I are looking to buy a house there. And move back eventually, as a part-time gig. We loved it so much. So from there, I was on the way to dinner with my wife, driving to dinner one night afternoon, and General Lowe's number pops up on my Bluetooth on my screen. And as I'm driving along, in the 30 seconds or whatever it takes for you to go from figuring out who that is to what do I need to say when I answer, I look at her and I go, how do you feel about going to DC for a while? And she looks at me and she goes, yeah, we could do that. I'm like, when would be a good time for you to do that? And she goes, I think we could do it by November. This was July. And I go, okay, sounds good. Pick up the phone. Hey, sir, how have you been? Good to hear from you. What's going on? I go, we can be there in November. And he goes, how did you know what I was going to say? I'm like, well, I don't think you make a lot of habits of just calling me for no reason, right? So I figured it was an invite, and I was honored that he would even consider me to do that. It was a bit bittersweet because Tucson, I felt like there was a lot that I was working on there. There was a lot that I was contributing to, but the commander that took over for me, Colonel Jason Halverson, is an outstanding commander as well, and just a great bro of mine. So I was happy to leave it in much better hands than I could have taken it forward. So I was appreciative of that I had that opportunity. And off we loaded up the SUV, and I think we drove out Halloween night out of Tucson at 5 a.m. in DC. There we were for a year.
Wow.
So my last job prior to this was working in the Pentagon directly for General Lowe as his senior exec, senior advisor, and we can get into that later. But the nice thing about having a job like that is you learn a lot. But the other part is you kind of get to shape what your next gig is going to be, and that allowed me to put myself in a position to be in the job that I absolutely wanted to be, and that's where I'm sitting right now. There is no higher coveted job than being the wing commander of 140th. It's almost, you have to almost say it in a hushed tone, because what it means out there is I am absolutely humbled that I'm able to do it. But this is the only job since the day I got the phone call that I was hired to be an F-16 fighter pilot here at Buckley. This is the job I was setting myself up to be in. So the fact that this has come full circle is really just, it's a blessing, and I'm happy to do that. I guess I should probably state, I know we went through my career. Equally important to me is my family. So my father's Richard Tucker. He was the group commander here, the OG, and retired 06 out of Buckley out of about a 30-year career. My mother is Cecilia Gonzalez Tucker. She was a teacher and the disciplinarian in our house. We call her the enforcer. She had a big part of raising me and whatnot. I got two brothers. Carlos, he lives in Madison, Wisconsin. He was part of this unit, and then he was STS for a big part of his career in the Guard. was in the Louisville Guard for a while, and now he is finishing up career as a part-timer in the Madison, Wisconsin Guard up in Wisconsin. Married, he and his wife own a pretty successful yoga spin class, bunch of spin classes and businesses in the Madison area, and a niece, Cecilia, his daughter there. And then my younger brother is Diego. He's a surgeon out in the Bay Area. And then, not finally, but most importantly, my wife is Christina, and she's vice president of a tea company, the Republic of Tea. So there's my shameless plug for the day of her company.
I've been racking my brain the last couple of days trying to remember which company it was.
Well, I'm drinking it now, so I put my money where my mouth is. And I knew absolutely nothing about tea until I met her, but now I feel like I know
Yeah, tea connoisseur.
more than your average tea connoisseur.
Yeah.
There you go.
Going all the way back to the beginning of our conversation, I always think about like my life almost kind of in two segments of
Sure.
pre 9/11 and post 9/11. And that like is very, very profound for you. Like, cause I mean, 9/11, you just hit the ground running, and then your life was just completely different moving forward. And it's probably just been a blink of an eye.
It's hard to say what life would have been like prior if 9/11 never happened. But I think, those occurrences happen for a reason, although it's a terrible thing that happened. It shapes certain people's careers, and it was definitely one of those that shaped mine, and put me allowed me to serve in a manner that probably was much different. We have literally been sitting alert here at Buckley 24/7 since 9/11. There is 2 pilots on and a whole contingent of some of the greatest maintainers you'll ever see or ever meet sitting right across the ramp right now that are on a posture that we will continue to do, and it may be in perpetuity. Who knows how long that posture is going to sit, but that is what we contribute. We still contribute to this day, and that's something I did for a lot of times. Many a night sleeping on alert, many a Christmases and 4th of Julys and stuff like that, sitting alert that our families do, the Colorado Guard does day in and day out because of 9/11. And that's something we've never failed at. Very, very much a source of pride for what we do.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's one of those things that I'm not so sure that many people, even in the community, know that. And that's obviously what our job is, to kind of tell as much as we can tell. My background in the Guard has mostly been at Greeley.
Yeah.
And there are people in Greeley that have lived there their whole lives are like, oh, there's a National Guard base here. We didn't even know that there was anything here. And so, yeah, that's all very, very interesting things that, the organization, Colorado in general, just contributes so much to things like national defense in the way that you just mentioned. And
that's part of what we do, though. Yeah, being in the military, we are humble warriors, and I love to categorize this as that is we don't broadcast what we do. We simply serve a higher thing for the good of serving, not so that people acknowledge that we're serving, right? And that's
Right.
what I really appreciate about every person that's part of the military, particularly the Cohang, is just that we don't have to go out and tell people what we do.
Yeah.
Right? We're just there in case something happens, and then people recognize
it speaks for itself.
It absolutely does.
Yeah.
And that's where I want it to be, is we are not, we are there in case of need and defense of this country, and we're there as acting as a deterrent force. And I feel that if we are not actively participating day in and day out, we're doing our job correctly. So that I absolutely appreciate.
Mm-hmm. You gave a lot of background as far as, your career as a pilot. I imagine your father probably played a part in influencing you into that. What else was kind of like your motivation for wanting to become a fighter pilot?
Great question. I feel it's almost seeing my dad come home in a flight suit every day was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
And what I noticed about when I was growing up here is obviously this is Cold War time frame, not pre 9/11. There weren't the kind of deployments and operational ops tempo that we have now. But what I do remember is, in the summers, we would go to Alaska because the unit was going up to Alaska to do an exercise, and he would take the family. Or we would go to Germany for a summer because we were doing an exercise over there, and my dad wanted us to be a part of, be a family. Coing was always a family-oriented type experience. It was part of my growing up. Christmas parties here, Santa coming in the F-16, which we still do to this day. That tradition, that legacy was something that I wanted to continue and be a part of throughout. Plus, the guys that and gals that were part of and really I had a small perspective, right? Because I was hanging out in the ops group majority of the time. I didn't get a lot of experience with the other groups that I have now, but those were the folks that they treated me like, like part of like one of their kids. I was mentored by guys when I was in high school or college. They would call me up, "Hey, Jeremiah, let's go hang out, or let's talk about what you want to do with your future." I mean, this is something that we continue to do that is absolutely different than you will find in a non-military organization, and particularly a non-Air National Guard organization. Is the family orientation of how we operate day in and day out, and that is absolutely the cornerstone of how I believe and how I was raised and what my philosophy is of leadership and how this organization should be run. And then ultimately, being a fighter pilot is a gift. It is something that is what I would consider an elite opportunity, something that is very difficult to achieve. But once you do, how you serve your country in that capacity is just a very honorable thing. That's not to take away from what everybody else does that wears a uniform, regardless of what AFSC you have within this organization. That all contributes to this. We all contribute in a different way, but that was just something that I aspired to be growing up playing soccer, being in a role that was very competitive. This is about as competitive as it gets. So those were all the things that kind of guided me towards being an F-16 pilot. And to be honest, you will see not a lot, but you tend to see some legacy passed down from father to son, because I like to say that it's in the blood in a way, and it is. That's not to mean that anyone can become a fighter pilot. Trust me, if I can, anybody can. But you tend to see, even in this unit, especially in this unit, the Neff family, the Edwards family, the Crabb family, the Tucker family, that you see this passed down from father to son, where family members have been a part of this organization and been fighter pilot that we pass on to the next generation. I want to do that across all of our AFSCs, where we're passing it down, and it's really that's a testament to the Guard and how this family actually it manifests itself, because I see a lot of the same name tags of the people that I grew up around when I was a kid, and that really warms my heart. That it's been passed to family, brothers, sisters, moms, whatever it may be. They still want to continue to serve in this organization, and that really warms my heart that they want to contribute. They continue to gravitate back to this organization, and I'd like to think that they see the same things that I saw when I was a kid growing up, that, hey, I'm a valued member of that organization. I'm treated like family in that organization. That's where I want to be. That's where I want my family to be. So that kind of a roundabout way of answering, but it's not just, hey, I saw Top Gun, I want to go be a fighter pilot. There's a lot more to it, and the family piece of that really has a part to play in that, because ultimately, man, we're in the profession of combat arms. We will be in harm's way. When we are, you want your family around you, and you want to make sure that your family back home is looked after as well, so that when we do have to go downrange, or we do have to be in those harrowing environments, that it's your family that got your back and with you. And that's the beauty of this organization.
But to be real, though, like Top Gun probably did play a little bit of a part, right?
To be frank, I mean, I saw it when I was, I think I was like, I don't know, 10 or so. I don't know. It came out in '86, so let's do the math. 12 years old, maybe. I guess I saw it.
Yeah.
I thought it was cool. I didn't know much about it when you're 12 years old. Flying's pretty cool, but being in the actual jet and flying with the toys that we have now, the movie cannot do it justice.
Yeah.
I will assure you of that.
Sure.
It's pretty cool what these jets can do.
Yeah. As far as like the family dynamic that you mentioned, I think that among many things that distinguish us from our active duty counterparts, that's a big part of that too, is you probably don't see that carryover of generation to generation to generation in active duty like you do in the Guard. It probably motivates people in a different way, knowing that people that came before them at home are, they're filling those shoes like you did.
Yeah. I think, I can't really speak to the active duty. Having not been in the active duty a lot, I know plenty of names that you will see, similar names in the active duty, brothers and whatnot. I can give you a perfect example. Our current ATAG, General Fessler, his brother was in the active duty as well. Both of them were just outstanding fighter pilots and both great contributors to this nation. So you see it in the active duty as well, and frankly, I think you kind of see it in the military at large. That is kind of what our wellspring of the new next generation is really from family members. What I would also like to do is to be able to expand that out to a bigger pool of folks that maybe don't have a lot of military in their background, but gravitate towards it because they see things in there that they value, that the military values as well. And maybe they haven't had an opportunity to see that because we haven't had a lot of outreach. You kind of said it, that people don't see us a lot. Well, that's that's a good thing and a bad thing sometimes, right? So we want to get that word out there that this is a place where, and one of the things I want to focus on is, this is a place where you can become whatever it is you want to be, and we're going to help you become the most expert in whatever you endeavor to be in your life. This is the place that will help you do that, and you're going to be valued to do that. You will be afforded the opportunity, which is what I was offered. I was afforded the opportunity to become a fighter pilot and a commander and a leader, and I want to be able to afford that, pay that back to those folks as well that want to take the oath we did, put the uniform on, and serve in the same capacity that we do.
Just passing 18 years in my history with the Guard.
Congratulations.
Thanks. I always kind of look back, and my elevator pitch is often like, you can get as much or as little out of it as you want. If it's originally for me, it was a means to put myself through college. Sure. And then it became more and more. And I can just see so many ways that you can utilize it, and I think that you're an example of when you utilize it to almost its fullest potential, probably. Or, you could just, serve an enlistment and get your college out of the way. And that's good too. But yeah, it's such a wellspring of opportunity. Absolutely. Sure.
And there's no negative, that I don't want to speak in a pejorative manner that, if you just want to use this to get your college degree, great. That's fine. You're still serving this country in some capacity.
Sure.
But what I think is this won't be for everybody. There are no, absolutes, but I think most folks see this and go on the kind of TDYs that we just went to Germany, and it rapidly, like you just said, becomes something bigger, and they realize, oh, this is much more than I thought it was, and this is something I want to continue to do because I really value being out there.
Yeah. Well, and it's hard to get that perspective, from just speaking for myself again, for at least a decade, I was just doing the DSG thing and putting myself through school. And I didn't really get that larger point of view that you're talking about, because I was just coming in on the weekends and putting in my time and everything. But yeah, just going out on those, like the German air defender that we just got back from, like that really makes you feel like you're contributing to something much, much bigger than you get on just your drill weekends. What are some major goals or milestones now as the commander that you would like to accomplish, and while you're in this seat?
Yeah, great question. Very broad. So I'll try to narrow it a bit if you can.
Sure.
World peace and all that sort of thing is probably not in the realm of the possible, but our big efforts right now, and ours collectively, this goes from General Clell and our Adjutant General to General Fessler, that we are lockstep in what our goals are, and that is the jets we currently have are, frankly, they are some of the most capable fighters, not F-16s, capable fighters, because of all of the capabilities that we've been able to put on them. And a lot of things I can't talk about, obviously, that are internal to the jet, but because of the test center and whatnot that I was fortunate to be a part of, that expertise and that innovation has made this jet just an absolute great asset in combat arms if we ever needed to do it. However, there is a sunset date for all jets. It does not matter what they are, be it, F-22, eventually the F-35 will have a sunset date, but we are rapidly approaching that. And if indeed we believe and we want to continue to defend the homeland and preserve the way of life we do, we will need follow-on fighters to make that happen. Now, why Colorado? Well, I can come up with 1,000 reasons, but just geolocation for all of the things that we have here, like the base we're on, NORAD, Northcom, Cheyenne Mountain down to the south, and a whole lot of other assets that we don't talk about in open conversation that we defend here. This is, if you put a dot from where we are sitting right now and draw a 550-mile radius, we are the only show in town for defense, and we have adversaries now that it can absolutely strike to this location. They have from their inside their borders. So the threat is real. If you've read the National Defense Strategy, Homeland is no longer a sanctuary. I believe that. That is absolutely true. I've seen the capability out there that our adversaries have. So that's one of them. But just the ability for the draw that Denver provides and the Front Range, moreover, I would say is how many people have come to Denver and say, I don't want to live there. I mean, people love living in Colorado. It's just a great place to be. It's very attractive for families. And so we are afforded the opportunity to recruit highly talented folks to come here that are smart enough to work on the jets, that are in the back shops, in the cyber realm. These are all folks that we can tap into, and that expertise that we have access to here in the Front Range, which really puts us in a very strong posture from that perspective. And frankly, I think we do a very good job in Colorado of retaining our folks. I think people are very, from what I've seen, and I've been on the job 2 months, so I will dig deeper. But from what I see, is folks really enjoy being here, and that retention rate really helps us as well. So when you have the expertise and the flying cadre that we do here, some of the most talented fighter pilots you'll ever meet, some of the most talented crew chiefs you'll ever meet, and support assets that we have here, that makes this place really an attractive location for follow-on fighters. And I'm agnostic to the platform. I'm ready for whatever that follow-on is. F-35 seems like the natural progression. Just the way that it is designed is very similar to an F-16. So that would be fantastic if we could get that. F-15EX is the other jet coming off the line right now. Happy to have that as well. Whatever the next thing that gives us longevity into the next generation is perfectly fine. And I know we have congressional support from Congressman Crow has been an absolute champion on our behalf that has helped us get their writing language into the the NDA, National Defense Authorization Act, to help us continue along that path. So I feel very confident that we will have F-35s in the line. Maybe not in my time frame while I'm here. This takes a little bit of time, but as long as we are continuing down that path, I think we can have an announcement that we are one of those bases that will be located. Will be getting a follow-on fighter in the next in the coming year. So if we can have that announcement while I'm here, fantastic. It's great. I feel like I played one small part of it. There's a much bigger piece that's been played by a lot of folks to make that happen, but I feel confident that that's going to happen. And then the other part is something near and dear to you, is the space side of the house. One of the things I have seen is on the space side, creating the Space National Guard. We have a very good relationship here at Buckley between the active component here at 460th and Base Delta 4 and 2 here. The relationship we have between the Guard and the active duty is really, really good. And as we start to progress into the next generation of whatever our space, missile warning systems and whatnot are, I feel that we're going to be an integral part of whatever that future is. Now, we will need a Space National Guard to make that happen as well. And whatever is happening in the higher echelons of DC and the decision-making process of why or why not a Space National Guard, well outside of our ability to affect that, really, other than to be proactive with our senators and our congressmen and women to help us to reach out. From a perspective of unity of effort, unity of command, just like we have an Air National Guard component of the Air Force, we should have a Space National Guard component of the Space Force going forward. It just makes perfect sense. And I don't think even at the higher echelons of Space Force that they want to give up the absolute capability and the expertise we have in the Guard by not naming a Space National Guard. So I feel very confident that that will happen as well. To very little effort on my part other than being an advocate for it. That has really been at our tag level and our congressional level and in our senior leadership in DC that has helped us get that through a constant pressure campaign that I think has been very effective. And thankfully, I'm glad that they're advocating for that for us in Colorado. So I absolutely fully expect that we'll have a Space National Guard as well as part of a component of the Space Force going forward, and we will have the next iteration of missile warning systems in Greeley and moving forward. So that's kind of where I think we are from a mission capability perspective.
Yeah. I've known for years Lieutenant Colonel Andy Gold. He's the commander of the 138th.
Great commander.
Yeah, he's a great guy. And that's something that he's championed for a long, long time too, and campaigned for. And he's always just put in very, understandable terms where the large majority of his folks are DSGs, and their background all comes from their civilian, or their expertise comes from their civilian backgrounds by and large, of a lot of those guys being Lockheed Martin.
Sure. You're right. Being a citizen soldier gives us an edge. And the reason being is because I know that there is this thought process that if we are a large part-time force, and that's by design. It should be that way. We're 35% full-time. I like that. I like that ratio, 35 full-time to 65% part-time. That part-time force is, it's not like they don't do anything on the outside when they're not, they're
right.
They are practicing their skill set day in and day out for somebody else out there, whether it be in the defense industry or it's in the law enforcement industry, whatever that is.
Mm-hmm.
That provides us an edge because they are in and out and around the community, right? So they know how to interact with our congressional delegations and our leadership, and that is part of what makes guardsmen an asset to our national defense, and why I'm wholeheartedly, obviously biased, but I'm also a zealot when it comes to the Air National Guard and how much I believe in the footprint of what the Air National Guard provides our community. And these are folks that a lot of times are taking pay cuts to come work in the Guard on a drill weekend, or to go on, that is devotion. That is the kind of dedication and sacrifice that really is somebody that really cares about their community and what they're doing for their country. You cannot replicate that. I mean, that is worth its weight in gold, and I have nothing but the highest respect for folks that are willing to do that day in and day out. But they get a perspective of what's going on in the outside world, if we call it the outside world. But if you want to talk about just the value proposition of the Guard in general, is their health care, their things like that we don't have to pay for, that is at a value to the American taxpayer. So they get a very skilled member of the community and the military at pennies on the dollar, comparatively speaking, to those where we have to pay for healthcare day in and day out, and PCSs, movements across the country or overseas and whatnot. That's the value proposition that you have of the expertise of the Air National Guard, and particularly the COANG, which is very impressive.
Well, and also, like I said, my extensive time that I've spent up at Greeley, a large majority of the people that I've worked around have made entire careers out of working there. And I just see as much knowledge that goes into those systems that they work on, especially a lot of those legacy systems. It would seem difficult for there to be a 2 or 4 year turnover and to retrain folks, and instead of having these guys that are seasoned and have been there for a decade or more working on this stuff.
Yeah, I think you're optimistic if you're saying that it would take the active duty to recapture the same amount of capability of a Space National Guard doesn't. I would say you're looking on the order of magnitude of a decade or maybe longer, or they may never even get there, depending on how long it takes to actually recruit these folks, train them. I mean, right now we are doing the schoolhouse. Greeley is acting as a schoolhouse for the active component for a lot of their folks, of just teaching them basic, here's missile warning systems and whatnot, right? If that all goes away, who's going to be training those folks, right? That is something they will have to organically build internally. And that is a huge gap in national defense right there, by simply not creating a Space National Guard, right? I don't know if the nation can afford that.
So this is kind of changing topics a little bit, but being in a leadership position for as long as you've had, and that evolving and changing and being in so many different units and types of positions, what would you say your leadership style is?
Family oriented. Great question, broad again, but let's try to narrow it if we can. So I believe whether you're running a
or maybe even how has your perspective changed from over the years and different milestones?
Yeah, the word that pops into mind constantly is trust, right? Whether you're running a Fortune 500 company or a military organization or whatnot, or you're a part of a Navy SEAL Team 6, it does not matter. Trust is inherent. If you have trust, you will have a positive and a successful organization, right? How do you build trust? That's kind of nebulous, but I do know if you've ever been in an organization where you do not feel like your boss or your supervisor or your buddies have your back, or you feel like this is I feel uncomfortable in this organization. People are looking to crucify me, vice build me up or make me successful. That is a lack of trust, and that is you can cut through it a lot of times with a knife. You can feel it, right? So I always use vision first, mission second, right? So my vision is we are a trusting organization. We will build trust internally with internal and external stakeholders. Now that's fancy words for saying that I will work every day to endeavor to make sure that folks are taken care of, they are championed, they are challenged, they are defended, and we will make them the best version of them. In turn, they will trust us as an organization that we have their best interest at heart. Therefore, when I ask our folks, and frankly, we're in the military, we will ask our folks to be in harm's way. That is what we've done. That's what we signed up to do. You and I took the same oath. That was the oath we took. But what we also took is that oath it was a contract that you and I are going to take care of each other. And it does not matter where you're in the uniform or what rank structure you work in. We have taken an oath that this is not a transactional relationship. This is we will defend you with our lives. That is different than working on the outside in a non-military organization. Very few organizations where you ask somebody to put their life, their well-being, and their family in your hands and for you to take care of them. When I show up to work every day, that is what I'm thinking, is how will I take care of the folks, all 1,619 folks, some of the greatest patriots in America you'll ever meet. How can I take care of them, and how in turn can I help them take care of those that they are charged and entrusted with taking care of as well? So foundational, we are built in a house of trust, and conscience, competence, and character are the mortar and the foundation that holds that trust together. Now we can go into what the definitions of those are. I have my own, but what I challenge folks to do is when I say that we are an organization of competence, character, and conscience, what does that mean to you? And can we find common ground of what those definitions are? And now we are working towards the same end state and the same goal. Notice I didn't say anything about mission. The mission will change. The mission changes. What we do and what we're asked to do as a military will constantly evolve and change. That is the nature of security. What will not change, though, is how we take care of folks, how people are valued in an organization. They will be flexible with whatever you ask them to do if they know that you will take care of them, whatever it is they're asking them to do. So that is that is my leadership style. That is how I go forward every day is how can I teach you to trust me, and how can I earn your trust, or how can I trust you, and how can I in turn earn your trust, and in doing that, we will all have the same goal and the same end state.
Right. And I think that's a very essential component of that is trust is earned, right? A leader is not
easily lost.
Sure,
absolutely. Sorry to interrupt you, but I think it's a distinct point is yes, it is very hard to earn trust, but once you have it, it is something you never want to lose, because you've been in situations, you've been in organizations where there was a lack of trust, and you never want to go back to that place, right? I say it to folks all the time, and I'm not afraid to say it, is there's been times even in this organization when I was younger, when I had a hard time driving to work, I would show up in the parking lot and I didn't want to go to work.
Mm-hmm.
That will not happen on my watch. Everybody will. Now, things go on in people's family and whatnot, and I get that, but it will be an environment where you want to show up every day, where you are not speeding, because I don't want you speeding, but I want you to look forward to whatever it is we're doing, going to German Air Defender, going turning jets, whatever it is you're doing. I want you to be happy about showing up every day to be at work, so that you're not in the situation that I was in. Man, I don't want anyone to ever feel that way that I did at one point, and I don't.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Right. I was actually having a conversation very similar to that yesterday with a good friend of mine. And what makes me satisfied, the years that I've been working full time with the Guard, is there's never a day that I dread going to work. Just like with what you're saying, it used to be a time like when I was, working, low skilled type jobs, and I was very expendable, disposable. And every day it was just like, oh, help me get through the day. Help me get through the week. I just need to get through the weekend. And I can't remember the last time like that I've driven to work and I've had that feeling, or I've had the Sunday blues where I'm like, oh, I got to go to work tomorrow. God. So I think that creating that environment where people do feel valued and listened to, and I think that is essential, just like you're saying.
Well, what you said is important. So well said. Probably better, much more eloquent than me when it comes to that. But the word you said right there is expendable. So that is an operative word in my mind. I use the word commodity, but we are not expendable.
Or disposable.
Yeah, interchangeable in my point. Those two words are interchangeable, right? When you took the oath that I did, when we all took the collective oath, we have now signed up to literally offer our lives in defense of this country. That cannot be overstated. That is valued in my book, and I will treat you that you are, if you're willing to make that sacrifice the same one I am. I have no option but to value your willingness to sacrifice for our country. That is truly sacrificing for something greater than yourself, right? Which I know we are all willing to do. Commodities, the value of a commodity ebbs and flows. Gasoline is one. Orange juice, whatever you want, pick your commodity of choice. But the value is based on market forces. Your value to me, the value of every COANG member to me, does not ebb and flow. It is on a constant high. It is always at a high level. And you said it very well. Is in the military, I think we have this persona that we have to be hard at all times. We're tough. We can take anything. Frankly, that may be true in times. There will be times that we have to do that in conflict. But on a day in and day out basis, people just want what everybody else wants. They want to be heard. They want to feel valued of what they do for the job that they're doing. They want to be recognized. These are very simple things for us to do, and we should be doing them. And it provides me a great deal of pride when I can offer that to folks. It fills me up. I build off of it. I really enjoy it, and I hope folks that are in a leadership or a supervisor role do it as well. It doesn't matter if you're in that, just in the military or in the COANG in general.
Well, and it's important that we do create and foster that environment of inclusiveness too, so that people do feel that they have equal value as everybody else.
Absolutely right, they do.
Yeah. And just another anecdote to go along with that. I had mentioned that my original intention years ago joining the Guard was like, this was my ticket to get my education and whatnot. And my leadership at that time, all great guys, well-intended, but I think that there was a lot of stagnation just because these guys were guys that have been in the job for, almost like Vietnam era. And maybe even kind of looked at me like, well, this guy's just trying to get through college, so he just, he's going to come in, we'll have him mop the floor, take out trash, whatever. Yeah. And, it was kind of reciprocal where it was like, oh, well, once I get through college, like I really, there's nothing really motivating me to stay here. Yeah. I can say that the leadership that I've had, or that has been, replaced those guys within the last 5 or 6 years, complete, 180-degree turnaround where that stagnation is completely gone. And there is very much a genuine concern of making sure that everybody's taken care of, everybody feels valued and has worth, and this guy can contribute this based off of this skill set and these aptitudes and the type of person he is, instead of just one size fits all. Mm-hmm. And it is created an environment of, you want to be there, you look forward to being there, and it's just night and day. So,
well, what you just said is important to me because you are living proof of that. What differentiates this military in general, but really the Air Force in general, is our NCO cadre, which is what you are, right? You meet militaries, which I have, of other militaries, Europe, South America, whatever. What you know is the distinct difference on how their enlisted cadre are treated, as opposed to their officer cadre. Our NCOs, they run the show. let's be perfectly honest, right? They are the leadership, the linchpin between senior leadership, at the wing level, and your youngest airmen, guardsmen. So they are the linchpin of success, right? So how goes our NCO Corps, so goes our organization writ large. And that is why I'm very, you know, focused, I would say, on the development of our NCO Corps to make sure that, Tech Sergeant, potentially next to be Master Sergeant, Chance Johnson, you guys take that forward and build up our next cadre of young folks. It's not me. I will provide you the tools to do it. I will support you in doing that. But our NCO cadre is absolutely it's irreplaceable if we're going to be a successful organization, successful military and Air National Guard.
Yeah, well, and I think Chief Hochschild implemented a program about a year ago that I think has really addressed that. I think he called it the Breaking the Cycle conference. And I attended the first one. It was at Fort Carson at the training center there. And it was exactly that. It was all tech sergeants, all E6s, and just about like how do we kind of break up the monotony of what's done up until this point, and motivate you guys to want to develop into stronger leaders and in turn develop the people who are coming up underneath you. So yeah,
our job is to make the next one of us better than we are. That is what we do.
Absolutely.
To serve our country, defend the citizenry of Colorado, and to build the next cadre better than what we are. We will prolong this. We are celebrating our 100-year anniversary right now. I'd like to see in 200 years that we're still at Coang, still flying whatever the 9th generation of fighter it is, and whatever the 12th generation of space assets that we have. I want to see that, and that's how we get to those places.
Sure. I put out a call for questions.
This would be good.
Yeah, since I let people on social media know that we were going to be talking this morning. This is from Mark Kaiser. This is kind of a multi-part question. He says, what was the largest setback in his career?
My career.
Right.
Oh, largest setback. There's a lot of them.
Just kind of thinking broadly about things like setbacks, he follows that up with how did you overcome that setback? So how do you, just in general, when you're encountered with those obstacles, how do you face them?
Yeah, I think I kind of talked to it a little bit. We think of what was the one instance in your career that was a setback that you really had to learn from and whatnot. I think mine was, and I kind of discussed it, the setback for me was a little bit of a disillusionment that from growing up in this organization, seeing the family mentality, seeing how it was, and then getting to having been a combat veteran and a steely-eyed fighter pilot, trench warfare kind of pilot when I was a captain and whatnot, and being in an organization at the time that I wasn't really, I didn't feel great about showing up to work every day because I was kind of treated like a second-class citizen from some folks. So I just didn't dig that at all, and so that was one of those things that was a setback personally for me that I'm like, I'm a combat veteran. I've served my country. I've been in harm's way. I've done some things for my country that not many people do. I feel like I should be treated a little bit different. How did I change that? What did I do? Well, I didn't quit. I didn't give up. And I would encourage folks not to do that. I sought out other options. And one of those options was to go to DC. To try my hand at the staff world, which can be good or bad, I guess. But it opened a door and a different perspective and aperture that I would not have had I just stayed here mired in my own self-pity or frustration or whatever that was. So that is what it's not going. The adage of it's not going your way right now. What are you going to do about it? You're going to quit. You're going to cry. What are you going to do? No. You find something else that maybe a little bit of risk. Walking away from Colorado is tough. A lot of times you leave Colorado and you can't come back, or not. Something else happens or whatnot, and this door closes for you. So I was taking that risk, but that was something that opened my aperture. It allowed me to go to a place like Naval War College. It allowed me to become the AATC commander, and ultimately it allowed me to become the wing commander of the finest organization in the Guard and frankly the Air Force. That is kind of what I would say. I would not say it was like one distinct thing that I did that happened to me that was negative that somehow changed my perspective. It was a list of things and just an environment at the time. But having said that, what I would like to encourage folks to do is seek other opportunities. There will always be a home at the Coang. If you're on our books, once a Coang member, you're always a Coang member. If there's other things you want to go do that kind of, builds your skill set, builds your knowledge base, whatever that is, I encourage and I will help folks do that and provide them an opportunity to come back here in whatever capacity that may be, part-time, full-time, whatever it is. But the perspective and how we grow as an organization and as a Coang, from our folks going and doing other things and then bringing that knowledge base back to us and that experience back to us, only helps our organization and frankly helps our people in general.
Okay. And when I hear that, I hear, don't get in a comfort zone. If you're in a rut, don't stay in that comfort zone.
We're in the military. If you're in a comfort zone, there's probably something wrong, right? Mm. You probably need to seek out. I assume that we have joined the military. All of us have a need for something else, for some sort of experience, for some sort of risk, for some sort of adventure. It starts out as I need to pay for school, but you start to see all of the opportunities, all the things that the military can provide you and the Coang can provide you, and you start going out. I'd like to experience other things. I want to get smarter on that. Ooh, I didn't know that existed. I'd like to try to do something like that. Mm-hmm. So, I want that as an opportunity for everybody. And again, that's when you're challenging your mind, when you're challenging yourself, that's where growth comes from. That's where the organization gets better.
Yeah. He ends his question by asking, is there something about your natural character or mindset that you've adopted to help with this?
My natural, well, first of all, type A personality by definition as a fighter pilot. So, but I've had to learn how to control that. My competitive nature has gotten a little bit less so as I've gotten older, but humility. I think one of the biggest character flaws is hubris. So humility in everything we do, providing an environment where other people are recognized, that is something I endeavor to do. I appreciate you giving me the podcast, but being overtly talking by myself, this is something that's very uncomfortable for me, to be perfectly honest. So I'm outside of my comfort zone as we are right now. I would prefer talking about the greatness of other folks in our organization. Frankly, as a commander or as a supervisor, that's what you should seek out to do, is to somehow find ways to highlight the actions and the successes of the folks that work with you and for you, by trying to find a way that you can glorify yourself and your actions and whatnot, which is something I really shy away from doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I always say that humility is my favorite character trait, and I think it's also the hardest to achieve. And I think our social media doesn't lend itself sometimes to.
Yeah, I don't have
that,
social media.
right?
Man. I don't have a Facebook account. I don't have Instagram. I don't have any of that.
I'm sure it's hard to be humble when you're a fighter pilot, though. Too.
I was thinking I've been accused of that a lot of times, right? Arrogance and whatnot. I think there's a fine line to the untrained eye. I think there's a fine line between arrogance and confidence. And
sure.
I think those that are arrogant usually get either self-eliminate, or they get weeded out, because nobody wants to be around somebody that's arrogant, right? But somebody that is confident, where you look at them and you go, I know that no matter what is going on, mass chaos around us, that person or those people will have what it takes to be confident in their capabilities and their abilities to get us through whatever that action is. Mm-hmm. And I think that is a very important trait as military leaders, is that we have to, when mass chaos is going on around you, you have to be able to synthesize down to what is important, how do I take care of the folks that are around me, and how do we get through this to the next whatever it is we're doing, right, without freaking out over certain things. So I think what we say in the jet is your jet could be on fire, but you always try to sound cool on the radio no matter what's going on.
Well, is there anything else that you want to add, sir?
What I'd like to put out there is, first of all, again, this is a family, right? I'm a member of the family. Yeah, I mean, I'm charged with the future and the forward, the forward action of this wing, but we are in this together. I value what people have to tell me, and if you are considering moving to a different National Guard base or moving to the reserves or whatever, I want to talk to you before you leave. If you are having troubles in your organization, I want to talk to you. I want to hear what you have to say. Now, I would prefer you went through your chain of command. We have that in the military. We're very disciplined in that, and we should be. But again, as a COANG member, this is for life, right? 20 years. It's not like the active duty where you do a 3 years and then you PCS into the next gig. We are in this for life. So we need to know each other and know what people want to do and how they want to get to where they are going to be. And that's my job to help them do that. But I also want to is you'll see me in drills, just like Colonel Souther did prior to me, is we're going to have where we sit down with a cadre of folks and talk about topics that are important to them. Send me your topics. Bring me ahead of time what you guys want to talk about, and let's talk about that. I'll open it up, or you ask the question, whatever it may be. But I would like to see folks on a drill weekend. Now, I know you got to get training done and whatnot, but I'd like to see folks, shuffle in and go, hey, this is what I'd like to talk about. This is important. This is what I'm hearing at my level, and let's bring it out in the open. I believe in pure transparency. In how we run as an organization. Otherwise, how else are you going to be heard, right? So I never want to hear somebody say, well, I've just never listened to. Well, okay, then that's going to crush my soul. You're going to be listened to if you have something that you want to talk about, all right? So that's one big thing. And then at the end of the day, trust is a big thing, family is a big thing, but we are in the profession of arms. When it's time to go down range, which is what we're going to do here next year, I need a focus. I need everyone's focus to do that. I'm focused on it, and that is what we owe, frankly, our community, the American public, the taxpayer, all of the folks that have come before us that have worn a COANG patch. We owe that to them to be absolute professionals in what we do going down range. And I have no doubt that we will. Just from German Air Defender, that small amount of time, 3 weeks, it was an absolute success. People had a great time. Everybody was a professional. It was well documented. I got to talk to the Dang General Lowe, and he was very impressed by everybody's actions. So I have nothing but I brag on this organization constantly. I brag on everybody in this organization constantly, and continue to allow me to do that, and I appreciate it. And then we are strong or as weak as the trust that we build together. I have no doubt that we're going to be very strong and a very successful organization because it's easy for me to trust anyone that's wearing a COANG patch, and I will endeavor daily to earn that trust in kind by every action that I take in my willingness to defend and support every member of this and their family.
Cool. Well, I know your time is valuable, sir, so I really appreciate you carving out the time to sit down with me today. And
is there any way we might be able to do this on a regular basis?
Absolutely.
I think maybe we talk about a topic or some from time to time.
Yeah.
You're very casual and it's a very welcoming environment here. So
yeah, it's I try to make it a free flowing kind of formal or informal discussion.
No, that's fantastic.
But yeah, I mean, I know you spoke about humility and not wanting to talk about yourself, but I mean, this is not only for our folks internally, but the community at large, I'm sure wants to know about who's running the show here. So
yeah, and if there's a way to get community involvement, that's one of my big. What I really want to help is get enmeshed in our community. I know we already are, but to continue that going forward. And if there's questions from the community, they want to know about what's going on behind the fence here. I know it's a little bit intimidating that there's a fence with a bunch of guards there. We can never get through there. If this is the format which we use to kind of get that word out there, I'm happy to do that.
Sure.
And maybe we talk about maybe one of the topics informally here. We're just talking about the organization.
Absolutely. Yeah. Anytime. Cool. All right. Thanks again, sir.
Chance, fantastic.